Hello everyone and welcome back to your weekly PlayStation podcast, Talking the PS, where we round up all of the weekly PlayStation and gaming news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/Helix Plays Games. You're joining myself, very unwell and not fit to be recording today, but I'm here anyway, alongside my man of many pixels, Mr. Richie. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me. Did you do like the whole weekly double thing again?
I have no idea. This
is the second time of the intro, which is never happens to Chris. And because he said weekly too many times, and then
I think now I was in my own head.
Yeah,
weekly.
Did you just go for it twice?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a PlayStation podcast, everyone. You get it. We're also joined by our chaotic neutral, who isn't suffering, even though Richie's gone through it. I've gone through it. Rob, welcome back.
Thank you. Feeling really healthy.
Till next week. It's your turn next week.
Yeah, it's your turn. I'll email you the details. Joining us. Not joining us. What am I even talking about? Yeah, we've got a great show this week lined up. Full of PlayStation news. We're talking about accessibility controllers, PlayStation selling 30 million plus units, The Last of Us multiplayer, and a Star Wars game from Ubisoft. But before all that, don't forget to like, subscribe, click that bell so you're kept in the loop with all the great content we do here at Helix Cloud Games. No, it's not Cloud, it's Plays. Fuck, this week is off to a bad start. Anyway, Helix Plays Games is the name of the channel, and our fantastic new shows we're talking about are the ClickerCast, starting in 2 weeks' time, in line with the HBO Last of Us adaptation. Do check it out, everyone. We're going to round up all of the breakdown from the new show that starts. It's on Sky in the UK. It's HBO Max in the United States. I have no clue. I've seen loads of people complain in France that apparently you can't even get it legally. So that's a whole thing. I don't know, streaming distributions and whatnot. But we're going to get it here. I've seen posters. Actually, in our town, there's actually billboard posters up, so I'm excited for it. My playthrough of The Last of Us is coming to its conclusion. I've locked in the finale for this coming Tuesday, today actually, when this show goes live. So hopefully I haven't died somewhere between then and now, so I can actually get on and record that. But yes, the following week, the 17th of January, we'll be going live with the ClickerCast, so do check it out, do join us, and of course watch the show ahead of time, otherwise the whole live stream is made redundant, or it will be filled with spoilers. We also do fantastic content here, like CloudQuest, our weekly cloud gaming show, and XPass, which went live yesterday on all of our free feeds, rounding up all the Xbox news. Before we get into all of the news this week, gentlemen, we just want to thank all our Helix heroes for all the continued support into the start of 2023. We couldn't do this without you. It pays for my medication. Thank you very much. Richie, throwing it over to you to kick things off this week. What have you been playing?
Yeah. Not a lot, actually. It's my first full week back at work. And I've decided, right, time to get back in. December, pretty much in terms of exercise, just fell off a cliff. Basically didn't do anything.
You're looking well, considering that.
This week is like, right, need to get back into it, like get back to the gym, go out for a run. So yeah, I've been playing a bit of FIFA actually, which is, I bought FIFA when it first came out, and then I played like a week and then didn't touch it again. So it's just been that kind of like little casual game, and I'm playing a lot of guitar at the moment as well, which is actually why I've got the darkness, I believe, a thing called Love Stuck in My Head.
Wow. And now there's many people out there listening and
it's
watching
so fun
and
to play.
suddenly thinking of that song now.
It's so fun to play, and it's just like, I'm still trying to like get the solos down, so it's like, I've been playing it a lot.
You know, one thing I didn't hear this Christmas, what's their Christmas song? Is it just called Christmas Time or something?
Christmas Time, Don't Let the Bells End.
Yeah, like, that's an awesome Christmas song. I didn't hear it once anywhere in public, or on like, when you're on Spotify.
Christmas songs.
You just shut yourself out from the world.
Usually for the best. Yeah. I like Christmas songs, but they do get way overplayed.
Yeah, like in my house, we usually stick like just a Christmas like top hits playlist on, and that was not in rotation, evidently. There's a ploy to get rid of the Did they get Christmas number 1 originally? Was that like the thing?
So.
Yeah, I think it was like a bit of a meme, wasn't it?
X Factor, get rid of all the X Factor shit. That won every year for like non-Christmas related songs. It
came out at like the kind of peak of the darkness being in popularity, and then just write a Christmas banger. So I was like, yeah. They deserve number 1 for it.
It is a great song. So aside from FIFA and the darkness, you've been chipping away at anything else? Have you moved on with your Plague Tale adventures?
Not yet. I think it's Saturday at the time of recording. I think tomorrow I'm going to start Plague Tale Requiem.
Ooh, exciting times. Initial wrap up of Plague Tale Innocence. I've been badgering you for about 6-7 months to play that one now.
Oh, it's a terrible game. Absolutely terrible. I hated every moment. It's a fantastic game. It has that kind of like nice linearity thing, which is what I've been craving. When you get so bogged down with so many games being like big open world RPG, everything is trying to be a big open world RPG. Mm-hmm. It's nice to play something goes, you know what, we're just going to be very linear. Like, we're just going to tell an awesome story. Great gameplay. It kind of reminds me a bit of like The Last of Us. in terms of the gameplay. It's like combination between stealth, where if you get into combat, something's went wrong kind of thing, but you can survive.
Yeah.
But yeah, also the kind of pseudo horror stuff going on as well is kind of like puts it in the same ballpark as The Last of Us. So
it's very
I would
dark.
say if you like The Last of Us, it is definitely worth playing.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. Well, I'm glad you started, and I'm hoping you enjoy Requiem a little bit more, because similar to the second one, it opens up a bit more. There's a little bit more depth and detail to it, and the graphics are just beautiful in the second one as well. Not that they're bad in the first game.
I will admit, I don't have the Platinum Trophy because I played on Xbox, but if I did play on PlayStation, I would have the Platinum Trophy.
Well done.
So whatever the Xbox equivalent of a Platinum Trophy is,
Just like
100%.
1,500 gamer points or something like that.
I don't know. It's like it's 100% completion, which is just not as satisfying.
I was going to say, can we all agree on a PlayStation podcast? The trophy system is just hands down better because it's just something you can get. Bronze, silver, gold, platinum.
Rewards for Xbox, I think, are better because the rewards go to your Xbox points, which then you can redeem for actual like things like vouchers.
Don't forget about this little thing no one's talked about called PlayStation Stars that's been live for like 3 months now, and I don't think anyone gives two shits about.
Everyone looked at it after 1 week and went, yeah, you can have a digital trophy case, which looks terrible. I'm good, thanks.
I'm good. How about you, Rob? You're back to work this week. Christmas season's over. What have you been chipping away in the background?
Back to work, but I did take delivery of a PlayStation 5 this week.
Congratulations.
I got like the Ragnarok bundle because apparently you can't buy a PlayStation by itself. It has to be part of like a games bundle. I've noticed a pattern of behaviour in my gaming. So I bought a new gaming PC. Mm-hmm. The first game I played was Command & Conquer Red Alert 2.
Yeah.
I got an Xbox Series S. The first game I played was Fallout New Vegas. Uh-huh. I bought a PlayStation 5, and the first game I played upon unboxing was GTA Vice City. So,
right, see, that's kind of weird because usually when you get like new tech, like that's significantly better than your old tech, you want to put it through its paces.
Yeah, right.
Like my usual thing is, even if I have no interest in like playing a specific game, I will go for what is the most demanding game I own. Let's see how that looks. I think for me, it was when I got my PS5 was Ghost of Tsushima because it already had the PS5 update. So I was like, well, this is the best looking game I have. Let's see what the improvements looks like.
Yeah, so I just didn't do that.
You go the other way.
I just spent last night playing Vice City.
It's the worst looking game I own. I'll play that.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, it's like the remaster or whatever they call it.
That'll push it. That'll push it to its
which is, still there's not many textures in that game.
No, it's very, very old school, isn't it?
Yeah. But I do have God of War lined up, and I have Ghost of Tsushima lined up to finish because I never actually finished that game because it streamed too terribly.
I think me and Richie checked Ghosts out on stream, and it's just not smooth enough to enjoy.
It didn't work. Yeah.
I think I started playing on stream, then switched over to playing on PS5 because why am I playing at like 30 frames per second and choppy because PlayStation streaming is terrible.
And I mean, like the 30 frames per second was generous.
Native, yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
You've seen our PlayStations in their native environments. What was it actually like so far, like 2 years detached from launch, getting it out and the size of the thing? Were you actually surprised in real life, or?
Yeah, I still hate the thing.
It's
like
ugly, isn't it?
It's right here. You can't see it, but it's kind of like against the wall. And my wall is white, and I've pushed it against the wall as much as I can so it blends in. But Jesus Christ, it's still an abomination.
You'll have to get some of those camouflage plates to put on the side of it for like £55.
Like dark plates?
Or just a straight up camouflage version of them so it can be hidden.
Yeah. It's like I have a pretty big desk because I need it for work and stuff, and it's just taking up a lot of space.
Yeah,
and
this is why I wanted to get like more stuff off my desk. So like just to free up my desk space. So if I do decide to work from home, which I never do, but I'd like the option, and I just didn't want too much. I had way too much clutter, so now the clutter's over there.
Yeah, mine's moving around. I put it in its initial spot where my PS4 Pro was, and thought, nope, that cannot live in there. It just did not fit at all. It's like sticking like a fully grown dog into like a puppy bed. It just wasn't going to work. And then I put it in its upright position, which apparently there's rumours going on this week that having it in the upright position is like detrimental for.
Yeah,
it's going to break it at some point, but I don't know how.
It's the thermal paste on the CPU. They've used like liquid metal and just literally gravity. So if you have it for upright too long, there's rumours that maybe it'll start actually overheating and stuff because it's like the CPUs or the chipset or whatever's in there. It's not fully coated.
It sounds like it's one of those tech things though, like you hear.
Yeah.
And nothing ever actually happens. Like I hear so many people who complain about like their controllers breaking and doing this, and like I don't know. I do wonder sometimes what people do with their technology, because I touch wood, like with mobile phones and games consoles, I very, very rarely had a problem with any of them. I just put them there, I turn them on, I use them. I don't. You know, when you hear these horror stories of I've had 3 or 4 PlayStations, it's like what? How? Like what? Either just really unlucky.
I had that with the PS2, but I used to drive. My parents used to drive to the south of France a lot, so it would be getting chucked in the back of cars and stuff. I'd use it with a screen in the car, and the disc drive kept breaking. And I just, as an adult, I'm like, well, yeah, the amount of vibrations that thing's constantly going through
in the car as well. Yeah,
of course, it's going to get damaged. But if you just set it and forget it, it probably would have been fine.
Yeah. The only issue I ever had was the first generation Xbox 360s, which I think everybody had.
Yeah.
But working in the game shop when I was younger and actually getting some of the stuff people tried to trade in and the condition it was in, it does not surprise me that some people go through like reams and reams of hardware.
Yeah.
Because Jesus Christ, some of the
sort of people who like when they change the game, they just chuck the last one over the shoulder.
Not even
just
that,
leave it where it falls.
Some like impossible things like that somehow like dislodge the entire kind of button kind of pad underneath the controller, and that would like go into the control. It's just like stuff like you wouldn't understand how they've done it.
Yeah.
It's just from like pressing the buttons, but yeah, I used to flip out big time with my brother and sister when I'd like come in from school or whatever, and there'd just be like discs on the floor, like upside down, or just left on a table surface with the shiny side down or something, and it used to be all like,
it's like savages.
Everything, choking them with the controller wire and everything. Kind of, why do you do this? Keep it. One of the things I'm so glad we kind of got away from.
Switch to wireless controllers so Chris can't strangle his brother.
Yeah. I mean, you still get a wire with us, just saying. But yeah, like the wallets people used to keep everything in. Like the amount of stuff I probably threw away, like boxes, to keep it all in those like cool 90s to early 2000s style CD wallets. And it's like actually the safer place probably for them was actually in the original boxes. But either way, we digress about that. Hopefully you guys out there don't have to mess around with your PS5s and keep them upright. But we do have a fantastic show lined up. Plenty of stuff to cover about. Like I said, like, subscribe, follow, all that jazz. But let's get into the news. Rob, if you could introduce us to the
properly prepared PlayStation Perusing Points, a.k.a. the news.
The news.
I'm going to try and like elevate like the distance I leave to pause and just see how long I can get away with it before people start complaining.
Right. So just a long silence on the audio feeds where
just
nothing
like
happens.
Pregnant pauses. Just like people go, "Is something happening?"
There's people checking their car radios and going, "Oh shit, what's going on?" But we do have a busy show for this week. I didn't bother getting to what I'm playing because I'm still just chipping away at The Witcher and The Last of Us, and I feel like I've spoken about it so much now. But go watch the playthrough. It's all up there. See me check it out. The Last of Us 2, so much longer than The Last of Us 1. I totally forgot that as well. Like, my word, I'm like 17 hours into it now, playing through with the wife, and it just keeps going. It just keeps going. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a masterpiece, but it just keeps going. Just like this show will. And story number 1 of the week. PlayStation had an appearance at CES this week over in Las Vegas, the Consumer Electronics Showcase. I'm sure it's Showcase. That sounds about right. Either way, they announced Project Leonardo, which has nothing to do with Da Vinci or the Ninja Turtles. It's more to do... I mean, it's in the thumbnail already. There's a turtle in the thumbnail. I've already done it. They showed up on stage to show off loads of new features and pretty much actually talk about PlayStation for the first time in what feels like a long time. And President was up there doing his piece, Mr. Jim Ryan. And he got on stage to essentially showcase a brand new accessibility controller. And the reason that's interesting is because PlayStation's probably done a lot of stuff in the last few years for accessibility in terms of software within the games. You can tweak things, and you can essentially turn things like Ragnarok and Last of Us Part 2 into games that look nothing like the actual main core gameplay because of the colour saturation you can add, the sound effects. Sorry, had to cough there. and a bunch of other stuff. But essentially, reading from the blog, an accessibility option is an important topic to us at PlayStation. We want to continue raising the bar to enable every gamer to experience the joy of play, whether it's the robust accessibility options in the PlayStation Studios games, or a wide array of features on the PS4 and PS5 consoles UI. We're passionate about reducing barriers to play for every gamer. We're announcing the next step in the journey to make gaming more accessible. Project Leonardo for PS5, developed with key contributions from accessibility experts, community members, and game developers. Project Leonardo is our code for our newly highly customizable controller kit that works out of the box to help many gamers with disabilities play more games easily, more comfortably, and for longer periods. Gentlemen, what is this thing? It looks cool as anything. What are your thoughts on it?
I think it's great.
I agree.
Everyone's kind of taken this approach for like the software element of PlayStation, and to the credit, Sony's done a really good job of that. And I think this is just like a natural extension. And yeah, I mean, I've got like a few kind of friends who struggle with kind of like motor. I don't really know what the specific term is, but like kind of motor
abilities,
kind of, yeah, something like that. And this will be like a real godsend for them, because for some games, like the nature of this, or the speed, or like the kind of like sensitivity you need to put into a controller, it does kind of turn all the games just non-viable for those types of people. And I think it's just like a really nice kind of thing that they're working on.
Yeah, I think for those,
it looks cool.
It does, yeah. There's something cool about this. So like obviously Xbox, we know about their accessibility box, and it's kind of like a big long rectangle with multiple auxiliary ports. And you essentially attach third-party components to it if you want to. It functions with across PC and Xbox. Fantastic piece of kit. But this one, it's gone for that space-age PS5 design, which continues through the controller and the console. And for those audio listeners out there, it's essentially 2 discs with paddle buttons around the whole outside the disc. It reminds me of what's that game you had as a kid? Is it called Simon? With just the coloured, there's like green, yellow, red thingy, and you basically have to press them in the order of the tune it plays. That kind of thing. With like a joystick and a little nuzzle controller. And all of the buttons essentially clip off, and you can customize them to what you want. So you can have your directional paddles, your X triangle, square buttons laid around it. And I can completely get it. Like, as someone who has like full motor functions, even the other day, me and Richie were playing Forza, and I was saying, like, after like half an hour of gameplay, the vibrations through the acceleration control on my finger had like a sense of like numbing to it, because of how much there was going. It was like, that's just like such a little thing through half an hour of play. Again, if you don't have the same abilities as other people, I can't imagine even trying to approach a video game. If you're like big into gaming, there must be so many restrictions put on it because of either the type of play it is, the difficulty level, or some things that we all take for granted that actually other people can't get in the foot in the door with, because there's just not that accessibility. And they've said through conversations they've worked with able gamers, special effects, Stack Up, and a bunch of other experts across the industry, charities and such, to work in tandem with them to make this as compatible with other third-party components as well.
Mm-hmm. I think that's important, actually, just because you just need to know like what is that people actually need, and I don't think there's a one-size-fit-all solution, which is why I'm kind of like looking at it and go, this is meant to be highly customizable. You can change like what the buttons do, and you can change how the buttons look. Some of them look a bit more raised up, some of them like almost like double. Like, it's kind of like 8 segments on each disc. So you can have like a double one, or you can have one that's raised up, or one that's lowered down, so you can customize it to your own needs and the needs of the game.
Yeah, they say in the blog post, hardware customizations, it's a canvas for gamers to create their own gameplay experience with robust kits with swappable components. And then it goes on to say, button mapping is part of it as well. So not only do you have like the physical buttons that clip out and can be removed and swapped and toggled around, but in the actual PS5 user interface as well, there's a whole option to change stuff. And I actually think this comes in partnership with the PlayStation DualSense Edge controller. Because with that, with the flappy paddle triggers and everything on the back, we spoke about it, I think, 2 or so weeks ago. You go into the settings, you can essentially remap the whole control to wherever you want to. And I think that ability is now kind of transferred over to this as well, where you can set up different profiles for different layouts. And just button mapping is so easy.
To the standard DualSense and just make it system-wide. You can just remap your entire controller system-wide.
Absolutely, I wouldn't be surprised. They've also added, I mentioned the auxiliary port, so there's two 3.5mm jacks underneath to support external switches, which you can connect other things up to as well, whether it's audio or other features. But yeah, these things do look cool. The interesting thing is, as someone who plays just with a traditional controller, is how these are going to actually play into things like speedrunning and stuff as well. Like, I feel like the ability to customize this layout must... Because we've seen, like, I think this week someone finished, like, Elden Ring with a dance mat. It was one of the stories going on this week.
There's going to be some awesome stuff, you see. I think
it's so cool.
The whole point is, on top of what Sony's done awesome in terms of software, doing this now with giving the hardware the same treatment, it opens up gaming to just more people, and that can only ever be a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think they deserve kind of extra credit as well for making it look really cool as well.
Yeah, they've kept with this, like, the PS5 design language.
Yeah, because, like, rightly or wrongly, and, like, kind of if you're like a 13, 14-year-old kid who has kind of, like, accessibility issues, like, a lot of kind of disability aids, like, they're not the most kind of glamorous or, like, kind of nicely designed things, and that can bring its own stigma, which obviously, like kids are assholes, especially around that age. Like, so the fact that it's like a cool kind of like design and it fits in with everything else the PlayStation kind of does, I think is like really important, because like a young kid who has like issues can kind of pull this out and not feel like
they've got a special
monstrosity
type
version,
of tool thing, just for that.
It's the difference between, like, if you're like a 13-year-old kid and you got a 13-year-old friend who's like disabled, and you go into the house and you see this, what is this thing? I don't want to touch that. Like, I'll just play with a normal gamepad. Or if you saw that, it's like, I want to go. Show me how it works. Like,
yeah, see if they can get their head around it. It is really cool. I think you've hit it on the head there, Rob, saying that it's. Kids are assholes, kids are cruel, and I think we take for granted again that, like, when we were all kids growing up, like, you all just talked about games, you played them, and you went around your friend's house. As Richie said, you took your console to the south of France and stuff, and I think we do often forget that. There's probably millions of children out there who haven't been able to get into gaming, just like all the friends do at school, so when they're talking about playing Fortnite and FIFA and Call of Duty, and they just can't, based on their ability, and it's like, it's great to think that this will open the door to so many more people, and I think... Richie, you mentioned it there, but our mantra here at the channel is, play wherever makes you the happiest. But to think that, like, that wouldn't be an option would suck. Like, gaming's such a big part of my life, and I think if anything kept me out of that being a pillar of kind of just my personality, it would suck. And something as simple as not being able to just pick up a controller and use it, it sucks. So the fact that PlayStation is like a company that didn't shift it off to Mad Cats or a third party and say, you make it, they've done it all in-house, and like you said, kept with that same language, made it look cool.
I don't think there'll be necessarily anything wrong with them going to a third party if, like, you know what, you guys have the experience, the expertise to do this properly. We'll work together in partnership. But the fact they're just going, no, we're going to do it in-house. We're going to reach out to organisations who know what people want from these sort of, like, controllers, because people follow us, people tell us what they want, and we can relay that information. We can, like, test it. All that sort of stuff, I think it's just fantastic. So good job, Sony.
Yeah. Absolutely. The only thing we don't know yet, which I hope they don't do, don't make it a stupid price. Don't be arseholes.
Don't make it £200.
Yeah, don't
make
it.
It needs to be the same price as the DualSense controller.
Absolutely, yeah.
It probably won't be, because I don't think the Xbox adaptive controller is the same as an Xbox.
Yeah, but when you consider like the actual market for this, and like they're obviously getting like putting a cynical head on as a marketer, they're going to get good PR out of this. So there's value in doing that. And the amount of units they're going to shift for this isn't going to be massive. I feel like it could just take a hit on any kind of development cost for it. I think that would be the right thing to do.
So the adaptive controller in the UK from the Microsoft Store is currently £74.99. The standard controller is around about the 60 mark, so it is a bit more, but not miles apart.
I mean, I guess that's fine. I still think I just don't want like a triple figure price tag on it, that's all.
So I would expect this to be pretty much in line with the adaptive controller. Otherwise, people will pick up on that.
Yeah, rightly so.
Yeah, indeed. But yeah, I think that's the only thing. But like you said, Rob, there's multiple business factors, and I'm sure it costs its own element of R&D and selling, shipping costs and whatnot, and packaging and all that stuff. But still, there is an element. It's like if you're gonna do it for the right reasons, then just don't.
This is
don't
not a product you do as a business to make money off this product.
Yeah,
you know this is going to be a loss leader because you're not going to sell as many enough of these as compared to the DualSense to kind of make you the full R&D costs back, probably. Or at least probably not over one console generation. But if you can carry this forward to the PS6 and the PS7, then you might start selling them out sort of units. But that's not the point. The point is this allows people to get into games, and if you go on the cynical business route, you'll make money by selling the software, software. So,
and it's kind of different enough that I kind of want this more than I do the DualSense Edge, if I'm honest.
I do want to have a play with it. I really do, actually. It looks cool.
I can picture me
like beat 'em ups as well.
Yeah.
Like it just looks made for beat 'em ups.
I can picture myself sat here with just the two discs, almost like a piano, and function it like that, rather than like having to sit there with a controller.
Game. Yeah, I think this could be great in the fighting game scene.
Interesting. I wonder if they'll have to implement rules for like, no, you have to use a standard. But then again, is that cutting out unfair, like for people who want to enter the competition who can't? So
it would be different from competition to competition, but I'm sure some like competitions do already have rules where you have to use stock hardware, stock controllers.
This is right.
Yeah.
Well, again, that'll be a bridge they'll have to cross. That's other people's problems to worry about. Things that PlayStation and Sony don't need to worry about, though, is the sales of the PS5. So also announced at CES, Jack Ryan got on stage and said, "We're happy to announce that the PS5 has now sold through more than 30 million units since its launch, which is an increase of 5 million sales since the last figures they gave us back in October. So despite the fact that Sony raised the price of the console in a lot of territories back in August, it seems to have not slowed down at all in terms of sales numbers. So everyone who wants a PS5 should now find it much easier to find one at retailers globally from this point onwards, essentially ending the chip shortage problem they've had since launch." It's took a long road to get to this point. The PS5 launched back in November 2020 at the height of the global COVID pandemic. And there was supply chain issues, chipset issues, delivery problems, everything you can possibly imagine you didn't want for the launch of a new product, and it happened anyway. And seemingly, it's not slowed down. So, guys, I think it's safe to say Sony is still the front runner when it comes to console sales. I know the Nintendo Switch is still selling millions, but arguably that's arguably 2 generations behind nearly at this point in terms of hardware. But when it does come to sales, you can't deny that's a lot of money on the table for PlayStation, raking it back in. I think when we looked at tracking in terms of PS4, it's the jump from... It's not selling as well as PS4 was because of the supply constraints. However, the jump from 25 million to 30 million is faster than the PS4 did it, which seems to show that now they're sorting out the stock issues, it's now trending above PS4.
There's this thing where like people want to get their hands on it. It's almost like as if like the supply. It's that weird phenomenon where sometimes when supply is limited, it makes people more eager to get it. Where if supply is in abundance, sometimes you can go, you know what, I will get one of these, but I'm going to wait a bit, wait for maybe the price to drop. When it's rare, it's like I want it. I want the things like, oh, there's one in stock, buy it.
Yeah.
So that might be contributing. Where it'd be interesting at the end of the console generation to see where it stacks up. Because at the moment as well, I think there's this thing where most games are still cross-platform, cross-generation. I think 2023 is going to be the year where the PS4 finally gets sunsetted properly.
Yeah.
But, so there's not actually that much of a need yet to really upgrade from a PS4 to PS5. Unless you largely just want just a better experience, because that's all effectively the PS5 is. It's just a better PS4.
Yeah. I mean, if you're Rob, you could just be playing your PS2 with Vice City still, if you really wanted to go down that route.
No, I love having this thing on my desk.
So in terms of like global sales, though, we all know the PS2 is the front runner, 155 million sold, which means that the 30 million this has sold so far seems like such baby figures in comparison to it. The Nintendo Switch, I think, is tracking about 115 million, give or take. Xbox don't officially say their numbers. They haven't done them since the Xbox One generation now, which I wish they would come out now, because they seem to sell really well with the Series S, and but they don't kind of just share those like hardened shareholder details and say like, look, this is how many units we've shipped.
I think it's one of them. There's like, if you say the numbers and they're not as good as you'd like, people go, "Oh my God, is Xbox dying?" But if
Yeah.
you don't say the numbers, everyone just goes, "Oh, your numbers must be crap, so
Yeah.
Xbox must be dying."
Because they talk about Game Pass figures,
which
quite
is
often.
nonsense. So
Yeah, I mean they're all doing amazingly well. 30 million though. Obviously, it does look like that price increase seemed to have no bearing on the sales speed, which I guess we've gone through a Christmas period now as well, and if your kid wants it, your kid wants it, right?
let's be fair, a lot of people probably didn't even know there's been a price increase.
No, the general consumer will have just gone into the local shop or went on Amazon and went, yeah, that's what it's selling for.
This is how much it costs. This is how, yeah.
And we joke because we're so heavily ingrained in this industry, but let's face it, if someone asks us how much shit costs in like other industries we weren't that interested in, like if someone asked me about kids' toys right now, how much do you pay for a Cocomelon, whatever, or what's cool for kids right now? I have no idea. Like a Fortnite, this and that. I wouldn't have a scooter, an e-scooter or something. Like I wouldn't have a clue. So if I went
you
to
can tell this is a
Amazon,
podcast by 30-year-olds, can't you?
yeah, oh
Jesus.
yeah.
I bought my nephew's scooters actually for Christmas. They're not that expensive, depending like.
Was it one of those highly illegal e-scooters that people still buy for children, even though they know they're illegal?
No, my eldest nephew's 4. Like, yeah, they're not getting an e-scooter.
Keep it to a manual for now, then.
Yeah.
It's that moment I can see it unwrapping it, and get on it and go, why is it not moving? It's like, you've got to do it yourself. It's like, oh.
They're a bit better than that. They're not.
Manual
they're not.
powered. But, yeah, so, like, again, like you said, the price obviously doesn't impact it for everyone because they're just not aware. Funnily enough, even though we're on the cusp of, like, a massive recession and inflation and everything going up, again, people's hobbies and interests, it just doesn't seem to slow it down.
So here's the thing. I when I bought this PlayStation, my girlfriend, like, she asked me, like, how much are they now? And this was just, like, in a mid-conversation. And I was like,
Don't know.
about, like, 500-ish, maybe?
Yeah.
And I was like, I couldn't, like, even me, like, on this podcast, I couldn't reel it off the top of my head because, I don't know, I just couldn't.
Yeah,
It's-
you kind of know they're not cheap, but you know... You kind of have an expectation, don't you, that was set in place. And again, around Christmas, I saw loads of things going around of like old like sales catalogs for like Electronics Boutique or Argos in the UK and like Toys R Us in the United States, and just showing like how video games, how expensive they still used to be. Like Nintendo 64 games were $69.99 and £69 over in the UK, and they still are that today, if not a little bit cheaper in some regards. But yeah, it just shows you that no one really knows. Do we think the PS5 will ever catch the mighty PlayStation 2, gentlemen?
Never.
Or do you think that was just such a perfect storm? I actually saw, I think it was like a TikTok or an Instagram video as well the other day of a salesman trying to sell a PS2. It was like point of view selling the PS2 back in 2000 and whatever, 2005. And it was someone going to a shop and going, "Hi, I'd like a DVD player, please." And the guy in the shop saying, he's a DVD player for £199. Or you could buy this PS2 that also plays games, does CDs, does music, and does XYZ for £199. So it's the same price, but it's the DVD player and everything else. And it was like, oh, yeah, of course. Shit, I'll go buy that.
That's actually, I think that was the secret source of the PS2 sales, was not actually because it's the game's console. It's because DVDs were taken off in a big way, and... This was the best DVD player you could get at the time, and it was significantly cheaper than anything else on the market. So it's better than most of the like other branded just DVD players. It's cheaper, and it's also a games console. It's like
Win-win.
It was kind of a no-brainer. That's why my dad bought one.
Imagine how many people's homes it stealthed its way into as a DVD player, and then people ended up actually getting into video games because of like they just had it. It was like, oh, it's there. I'm going to play this game that my friends are talking about. Win-win.
I was at that point when I got PS2. I was straight up a Nintendo kid. Was the GameCube out yet? But it was all announced was like I was still in grade fun for N64, and my dad bought the PS2 not for me because he wanted a DVD player, and it was the most sensible purchase.
There you go.
So
I got
like
PS2.
A really controversial
I was like, great
prediction. Do you think this has like the PlayStation 5 has the chance of being the lowest selling PlayStation?
Yeah.
When you consider like the way the market's going, like you have obviously a lot more people have turned on to kind of really low performance games like Fortnite and things like that, which the Series S, which was below £200 before Christmas, by the way, Like,
I'm not sure if people playing like Fortnite does dissuade them from actually wanting a PS5, because if you're a kid and all your friends have PlayStations, you're still going to want a PlayStation, even if you are still just playing Fortnite.
yeah, but remember most games are crossplay now. So like you have a sub £200 alternative which can play the majority of titles, which would take like a lot of the younger audience out, I think, for a lot of parents. You have the fact that kind of, if you look at this list, so obviously PS2 was a different type of beast. Like, that's never going to be hit.
No.
PlayStation 4 was probably like the kind of soundly won the console war in a very different kind of scenario to what the PlayStation 5's in. PlayStation 1 is, again, quite revolutionary. And PlayStation 3, I'd argue, sold a lot because of the Blu-ray player, which is pretty much standard now, and lots more people streaming content anyway. I think there's a real chance that the PlayStation 5 is the lowest selling console for PlayStation.
I don't think it's going to be, because we're already at 30 million and the PS5 like clocked in about 87. And one of the reasons I don't think is, one, it's horrendous. It looks ugly. So when they bring out a bit more of a sleeker, like slim design, people will buy double up. And I also suspect that this might be the longest console generation so far, because I think generation to generation we are suffering the laws of diminishing returns in terms of the quality of the hardware.
Remember, this doesn't take into account
more and more powerful hardware to actually get tangible improvements in your gameplay now.
But this won't take into account second-hand sales either, which have been
that is true,
quite non-existent, because like the price gouging I've seen from CEX, which like over like the past couple of years has been insane. So in theory, if supply kind of picks up, the second-hand market picks up as well, because like those prices get better. So I'm going to bet, I'll bet you £50 Richie.
Wow.
That by the time the PlayStation 7 comes, well, the PlayStation 6 comes out or whatever, that is the lowest selling console for Sony.
I think it's going to beat the PS3, but maybe I'll put it in like close to the PS1, either maybe slight edge it or below. It's going to be below PS4 though, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's definitely a curious one, because like you said, Richie, with diminishing returns, like when they announced the PS5, maybe when it came out, I didn't feel like my PS4 was old. Like, got to remember, we were playing games like Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, God of War, and they just looked fantastic, and they ran like, albeit with like a couple of load times in between, but nothing that was like painful. And then now with the PS5, we have the fast SSD, which means load times are pretty much non-existent, which is fantastic. But like, again, playing through The Last of Us Part 2 at the moment, which is a PS4 game, it on the back of playing the Part 1 remake, it just looks like a gorgeous modern game. Like, there's nothing that's telling me it's a PS4 game at all. And you're right, like, does it just like drag out longer? I kind of sit with Richie where I think it'll beat the PS3, just because of how much Sony fucked people over with the PS3's price and marketing and everything else, which did end up beating the Xbox at the end of the generation. A lot of people forget that.
Which is crazy.
Because the 360 had such like, it won that generation hands down, but in terms of sales numbers, it didn't. And that's, I think, when Sony started to lock in their first party exclusives that really started to like kind of drive the sales near the end of the generation, with the Uncharted, with the Last of Us and such.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say something there, Richie.
No, I was like,
did the moment pass?
The
moment pass. Although we don't know about Switch. Switch could just outsell them all if they keep going with like another Switch variant. Because like they count the Switch Lite sales in with it, and it's like with different SKUs, you're always a wonder sometimes.
Yeah, you can make the argument for the PS2 when they had the slim PS2 though. You could, if you cut out the Switch Lite, then you've got to cut out the slimline PS2.
That's true.
And yeah. And with the Switch, there's rumours that they've canned the Switch, an idea for Switch Pro, and rather in favour of like a successor to the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
Which it's probably just going to be a Switch Pro. Like I don't want a new Switch. I want a better Switch.
Yeah, I got my Switch second hand, so like the option to actually buy like a better performing one. Although now I'm questioning if I even need one, because how little I use it's just my Pokemon machine. But we digress. Right, next story of the week to talk about, gentlemen. I want to go a little bit more in detail with this. With, of course, the Last of Us TV series starting imminently, and the ClickerCast is about to launch. Don't forget, at the ClickerCast on Twitter. Also, keep it locked to the channel for our Last of Us playthroughs and our breakdown every Tuesday here on the channel. Naughty Dog celebrated their previously known as Outbreak Day, but also the Last of Us Day, I think it's just called now, and they imminent arrival of the TV series. They celebrate their 10th year anniversary with a blog post basically breaking down everything that's going on, a reflection over the last couple of years. And I kind of wanted to look a little forward to what The Last of Us, what we presume is going to be factions. But it's Naughty Dog's first foray into a solo multiplayer game. A standalone, not solo. Solo multiplayer game sounds ridiculous. A standalone multiplayer entry that isn't tied in with an actual game. And they released some new concept art which showed kind of like a big cruise ship docked up in, it looks like Santa Barbara at the end of Last of Us Part 2. And I just kind of wanted to spend a bit of time talking about like what you guys would expect out of this as like a standalone game. Do you think it'll be free to play? What do you expect it to expand on from the first one? Will it have story? Because you got to imagine this is out this year, right? It's been two plus years since we had the Part 2. Naughty Dog are a big studio working away. They're celebrating. They've got obviously the TV show coming out. And I think what better time to start talking about your online multiplayer version of the game other than when the TV series wraps up in like kind of like March time. So either one, pick it up. What do you reckon? The Last of Us Factions, as we'll refer to it as.
I mean,
what are your
think
expectations?
for me, like, there's no doubt in my mind it's going to be a beautiful looking game because Naughty Dog just don't do anything else. Like they don't know how to make a bad looking game. I don't think. But aside from that, the actual gameplay, like, I know Naughty Dog have like an exceptional standard for the stuff they put out, but this is so far removed from what they've done in the past, and I'm having trouble knowing what to expect really. And it feels like it's been so long in the pipeline that it's either going to be a really polished kind of masterpiece, or it has potential to be like this kind of a bit clunky, overblown type of thing that's been in the oven too long. So to answer your question by not answering it, I really don't know what to expect. That's the hard thing with a multiplayer game from Naughty Dog.
I'm in a similar boat. Like, I don't even know what I would want from a Last of Us multiplayer game, because I don't think I would want. I don't think I actually want it. For me, Last of Us is brilliant as a single player experience. It's all about the story, it's about the lore, and the gameplay is good. But is that kind of a bit more slow paced, a bit more tactical? You have to think, you're observing your surroundings. When's the best time to move? Do I kill this clicker, or do I just try and get by it and save my gear? It's that kind of thought process, but that doesn't really, I think, lend itself great to multiplayer.
How much time did you both put into Factions, if any?
0 minutes.
Right, okay. You're both fools, because it's one of the best multiplayer games I've ever played. So let me lay the scene of why it's so good. So you start off in your faction. You pick your scavengers or your hunters, I believe they were called. And what it does in the original game is it gives you so many months, basically, to have your group of survivors, similar to like a Walking Dead scenario. And basically, as you go into a multiplayer match, the outcome of that match impacts your group. So if you die and your team loses that online match, your group loses members. Some die, some get infected, and what happens is if you don't get to the end of your several-month cycle, you'll be wiped out. Your whole group of survivors are dead, and you will lose. And there's a trophy attached to it and everything as well. But the actual gameplay, you set out on the map, and the big difference for me was you got to scavenge, just like you do in the main game. So you start off with essentially just a pistol with maybe 3 bullets. That's it. And you have to work your way through the world to craft bombs and traps and everything. You still have listening mode, but then some of the perks in the game are kind of like stealthy footprints and faster crafting and stuff and different weapons. And it's hard to actually explain how it works. But rather than just a typical multiplayer where like you find a pickup and you're good to go, or you start with like a rifle and you go pop someone's head straight off, you don't. That's not the course of action. You have to take it stealthily to start with, otherwise you'll just get destroyed by someone who's been alive. So if you get a couple of kills in, you start building up your points, which means you can spend them on crafting a bit more. And it just changed the whole dynamic of it. There weren't any clickers in the online world. It was very much just humans v humans, with a couple of similar scenarios. So my take on it is they're going to take that and expand on it a bit with, I think you're going to have some kind of like home base maybe as like your hub that you'll work out of with a team. So it's like, say the 3 of us jumped in, you'll have our home base, we'll go out on these kind of scavenging missions, and we might come across clickers, and that might be kind of like a horde mode, online, battle royale, whatever that looks like. But if we go out there, all of it has to feed into this narrative of we're building a crew essentially that has to get stronger and stronger. We're looking for supplies, we're looking for medicine and such. And if you don't do that, you'll just fail online. You have to start all over again. So you lose your weapons, you lose your pay. So there's like an element of risk to playing online rather than just your kill to death ratio. There's something constant on your profile that keeps ticking over. I do think it's a risk committing this much to just like an online multiplayer. It's all well and good attaching it to a very successful single player campaign. But will people want to pay for this? Which makes me think they might actually go down the free-to-play route to get as many eyes on it as possible. And
that's why I'm wondering is like what you described. It sounds cool for a little while, but I think it'll get a bit stale, to be honest. And then what next? I think it needs to be more. Like if this is going to be a standalone title, it almost needs to be like an MMO in a way. Like it needs to have that. Because things like Call of Duty Warzone, they can exist for long periods of time because Call of Duty, it's all about the weapons, it's all about the customizability, it's all about that Battle Royale thing. I mean, it could be a Battle Royale, that could work quite well for The Last of Us. But Last of Us, it's not really about the weapons.
Yeah.
You can't just do the Destiny thing where you can just release, here's a new raid. With this raid, you can get better gear, which looks awesome and has bigger numbers. You can't really do that in The Last of Us because it's too grounded in reality.
Yeah.
So this is why I'm kind of stuck of what this game could be. Like the typical, I'm trying to think of like what are the successful kind of multiplayer genres, and it doesn't really fit any of them that well.
Yeah, I can see them totally trying to include some story element to it as well, where like whatever creator character you use or whoever you play as, every time you finish so many online matches, you get like a cutscene or something happens within the game that creates a bigger story or a meaningful impact. Because I feel like that's what Naughty Dog always aim to do. They always want to tell that story. And like you said, just going into generic match after generic match after 30, 40 games, does that just become stale? So, but at the same time, I don't believe that they would be pushing this so hard and working on it for so long if they didn't have something golden. So, I think free to play makes sense. I think it's a franchise that's big enough and well known enough to kind of pull people in through name alone. But I think if you're risk charging, I don't know, £30-40 for it, I think you risk putting a lot of people off getting on board. Similar to Ghost of Tsushima Legends, we played that quite a little bit, Richie, and that's fantastic as a complement to the single player game. I think if it was standalone, you might not play it.
A smart move. You give it a $40 price tag, but you also give it free on PlayStation Plus.
Yeah.
So, like, if you don't want PlayStation Plus, you can buy the game. It's not like full price. It's not your $70 experience. Or you can just get PlayStation Plus.
Yeah.
And that drives that drives your sales for your subscription, and also means that you are double dipping on the finances where some people will buy it and some people will get PlayStation Plus.
Yeah.
I'd say put on the premium tier, to be honest, because then it gives value to that tier. So then you're trying to encourage. This is not from a consumer perspective. This is from a business perspective. It's like it drives people to go, well, do I upgrade the premium for The Last of Us? It gives you that thing, or do I just buy the game? So either way, you're you're making money somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in terms of the core gameplay, I really don't know what I would want from it.
It's got to be this year, though, right?
Oh,
yeah. Surely you can't keep dragging it on. Especially with the TV series. It needs to be.
I think it needs to be first half of the year as well. You don't want it too far away from like the Last of Us TV show, because Last of Us is about to just get a bit of an uplift because that TV show. You want to ride that. You want to drop this game into it rather than dropping it later in the year where like other things might just take people's interest.
Yeah.
People moved away. Maybe the Star Wars is happening, like stuff like that. Like
just anything. But
you want to get that while the peak of the fandom's up there.
Absolutely. I do think as well, it when they do ship this and get it out, I think going straight to PC day one would be a good move as well. I know they've been slowly porting things later on, like several months, years later, but actually you just release it with PC at the same time and really drive that energy of everyone is talking about this. But to round things up, 10 years of The Last of Us, 37 million copies sold worldwide. And reading from Neil Druckmann's blog post, the director of the game and soon to be part of the TV series, it's been an unbelievable 10 years, and to know the journey of our characters has meant so much to you, moves our team. Thank you for the support and appreciation. We hope to continue along this road. Just don't forget to pack a brick or a bottle. Right, moving on. From one world to another, Star Wars Ubisoft game is also going to be huge. For the development team, it said 2023 is going to be a huge year. I don't think the game's going to be coming out this year, but to hand it over to you guys again on this one. The Division team makes Star Wars. What are you expecting to see out of this one now we get a little bit closer?
What am I expecting to see, or what do I want to see? That's the
kind of
question.
both. Like, I'm a huge Division fan. I think the gameplay is fantastic, and I would just quite happily just be a Stormtrooper and play the Division as a Stormtrooper. Yeah. But is there something more to be said? The reason I go into it is the game developers just came out and tweeted saying 2023 is going to be huge for us. Happy New Year. To be clear, the game isn't coming out this year. It's just going to be huge for the team, which means they're putting big strides into it.
Yeah,
that'd be nice to just touch on.
What I expect, because considering it's Ubisoft, is there's going to be a bunch of towers to climb to reveal new areas of the map. There's also going to be a flying droid which can scan enemies and like kind of mark up targets and things like that.
Yeah.
There'll be some type of like store baked into the game for like, I don't know, like Imperial credits you have to buy or some shit to get higher tier armor sets, which you get so much new armor anyway that it doesn't really actually matter in the grand scheme of things. That's what I'm expecting from this game. I pray to God it's not like that.
Well, what I'm expecting is, gameplay-wise, the Division 2 with a Star Wars skin over it. So, like, instead of using a rifle, you're using a blaster. That kind of thing. Like, yeah, the Division's already got some, like, text, like, scanny stuff, so you could have, like, a scanny droid and stuff. So you could just literally just basically make the Division 2 with Star Wars. So I was thinking more of, like, where I would set this in the Star Wars, like, in terms of Star Wars lore, and I think it'd be cool to kind of, like, be, like, almost like Andor-esque, you know, where you're kind of, like, you're part of the Rebel Alliance, but you're kind of this, like, elite, like, more stealthy team. You're not, like, frontline soldier, which explains why you'd be working in smaller groups and stuff. And then you're doing missions to like take down like the Empire, so you're like invading like Empire's territory. So then the enemies naturally write themselves. The enemies are stormtroopers. But I'd stay away from Jedi stuff with this. Actually, I don't think it needs it. I think you focus on the more gritty reality of, like, again going back to like Andor and Rogue One, where they've just started kind of exploring that world. What is the Rebel Alliance doing away from Luke Skywalker, away from Han Solo? Like, the boots on the ground sort of stuff.
Imagine if it was the Division, but every one of your standalone missions was Order 66. And, like, every single mission was different planet, different location. You and the squad have to get to the Jedi at the end of the level to take them out. And you just
so you're flipping my idea. Yeah. I'm going, you focus on the Rebel Alliance, where you're going, no, you're going to be the Empire. You're hunting the Rebel Alliance.
Yeah, could you imagine? Just start, like, every mission is like Commander Order 66 came through, and, like, on your hit list is like, oh, he's Kit Fisto, he's Ki-Adi-Mundi, he's Plo Koon, like, and you have to work your way through those planets. Still killing droids and stuff on the way, because you're still at war, but the end goal is to kill the Jedi at the end. That would be flipping.
I still remember in Battlefront 2, the original, we had to slaughter all the Padawans in the 501st campaign.
Yeah.
That still traumatizes me.
Do you think they get away with that today? Like, making you kill? It's almost like no Russian in Call of Duty, where you're just literally massacring innocent people and children.
I think it's one that you just stay away from. The reason I think the Rebel Alliance rather than like the Imperials is, the Imperials, like, when you're a Stormtrooper, you're basically just a Stormtrooper. You're just a blank slate, and that's not very interesting to play as. I think where if you remember the Rebel Alliance, you can think again what Rob mentioned. This is Ubisoft. It opens itself up to a lot more customization, and in terms of like gear, well, it makes sense when you're starting off in the Rebel Alliance. You got nothing because it's just a scrappy bunch of misfits kind of banding together.
Yeah.
But as you do more missions, you get more tech. You're stealing tech from the Imperials, and that's how they kind of make sense for the upgrade cycle.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. But again, it sounds like we have some time to wait.
And you can sell cosmetics easily.
Massive have said it's a story-driven, open-world experience in the Star Wars galaxy. So, after playing Battlefront the other week, I've got that kind of itch to play a Star Wars game. But unfortunately, Battlefront's servers seem to be dead a little bit when it comes to getting games, especially the flying ones. So, would you something new? I want something new. We've got Jedi Survivor, which is going to be huge, but it still is single player. So I would like that element where like the three of us could jump on as one of like the 501st Legion or something and just go mess shit up. That'd be cool. Moving on though, IO Interactive put a post out this week explaining that the world of Hitman, as we know it, is just about to change for the better. They are essentially taking Hitman 1, 2, and 3 and changing the entire name to the Hitman World of Assassination, and it's going to see a single release on January the 26th, where all 3 games essentially get bundled into one. Now, that may come as a surprise to some people who've not played Hitman before. It's quite a good value for money proposition. I think, Richie, you and me come at it from a slightly different standpoint, because this is kind of how the game was handled on Stadia. Google Stadia, that platform that's soon to die.
Yeah. World of Assassination did come out to Stadia with Hitman 3. So if you own Hitman 3, I think you got... 1 and 2 were kind of lumped in, but I think they were still almost like separate, so you had to be like... These are standalone games that
you had to buy
basically
them still,
through a single. Yeah, you had to buy them, but when you went into Hitman 3 in that launcher, they were there, but just like almost now they're just going like, you know what? If you buy Hitman World of Assassination, you get 1, 2, and 3. It's a single game.
Yeah, because we found essentially that all the games it's all based on the same launcher. So if you boot up whatever mission it is, whether it's the first game, the second game, the third game, they're all kind of running on the same engine in the same browser, and they all just kind of tell the single stories as they go through. But yeah, I think, which one was it we were playing, Richie, and you booted it up and it launched the wrong game?
Oh, I think that might be 2.
It had like a bug fix, so you launched Hitman 2 and it played the opening cutscene for Hitman 1 when you played it, and it was like, well, this is broken. This isn't how it's supposed to work. Because realistically, yeah, it should be the initial game, and you just boot into 1, 2, or 3. But it's all been repackaged. It's now called the World of Assassination, and IO Interactive essentially said that anyone who owns the previous bundles, they get all the kind of the Year 1 access passes, the DLC, the 7 Deadly Sins collection, all the expansion stuff. It's all bundled in and part of the same thing now. So
yeah. You're losing nothing. So if you only have Hitman 1 and 2, you don't have 3, you still can't play the content from 3, but you can still play everything you got from 1 and 2, and you can still download it from the storefront if you haven't got it downloaded. Mm-hmm. It's just 1 and 2 and 3 as a separate things and no longer up for sale.
Yeah, it's essentially the Ultimate Hitman collection, but it runs through one game, which is
And I think if you own only 3, they just grandfathering 1 and 2 and go, there you go. I might be wrong in that.
It's now there now. Either way, moving on to some of our final stories of the week, some nice little fun ones here. Alongside the CES announcements this week, we also got Jim Ryan on stage talking a little bit more about PSVR 2, which is no surprise considering it's coming imminently in February, which seems so close now. Now we've kind of not really heard them speak much about it. The fact that PSVR 2 is out next month. They've now got 30 games kicking off at launch. Announced as part of CES is that Gran Turismo 7 will be a PSVR 2 launch title to add on top of the list of some of the other things we know about. They also mentioned Beat Saber is in development. Didn't say it was there for launch, but they said it's in development, which is odd considering Beat Saber's already out on pretty much every other VR headset. We know we're getting Resident Evil Village with the VR component. There's a Star Wars game and a bunch of other ones that I think we weren't overly too keen on. But as we creep a little bit closer, guys, with Gran Turismo 7 now playing a part of it, what are we thinking of this launch lineup for PSVR 2? Has it shifted the needle at all for you guys, or are we all just on the same page where it's too expensive and there's not much to play outside of Horizon Call of the Mountain still?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm still very much if I was to go VR, I'd probably go down the PC route, and the price of like PSVR 2 is just a bit too high for me at the moment compared to what you can get for. You can pay more for a better kind of piece of tech, but you have a much, much bigger and richer game library to go from, which is what's always going to win out for me.
I think just where I'm at is I don't crave VR at all. I like VR. VR is cool, but I don't want to pay the price of a console effectively again to have that experience when I already have so many gaming experiences where I'm not playing, which I would argue are better in a lot of ways. Maybe not as like straight up as immersive, but you turn the lights off and you're fine. Like I don't need VR, and so VR has to really do something to absolutely wow me to make the cost justifiable. And while I do expect things like Horizon Call of the Mountain to be a great experience, I'm okay not having it. And I think that's just the problem with VR for me. It's just I'm just not excited for it at all.
Yeah, I'm at that point where as someone who's got a VR one, there's nothing like even the Horizon game. It's not enough for me to put that much money down on the table.
If it was like maybe 150 quid, I could kind of go, maybe I might be tempted. Like if like I'd have a few beers and like I saw like a trailer for Horizon Calling Mountains, go, yeah, God, just do it.
But it's like payday, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's that kind of sort of impulse thing. I don't think I'd regret it for that sort of price. But what is the price? Is like 300, 400 quid.
It's more than the console, isn't it? So
yeah, so that's just like a straight up no. Because like as much as like Moss is an awesome game,
Moss is a great game.
Is it worth 500 quid?
No, it's not. Not when you could just go play Astrobot.
Yeah,
and
I'd have to be die hard. Like VR is my main. This is how I game. This is how I only really want a game. And non VR games become like secondary, where this just seems like a cool peripheral.
Yeah, and this is kind of where my mind goes back to. Is like I really wish Sony had just like VR was fun. Like the first one is great. I wish all the research and development for this just went into another handheld. Like I think with the Switch having so much success and like 114 million sold, and everyone's berating them now saying like Pokemon runs like shit, and it's graphically and software being held back. I was like, what a time would have been great for PlayStation this February to launch another handheld that had some kind of cloud element to it and newer games and a new lineup. And like this could have been Horizon handheld, this could have been Moss in handheld, and then everything else that you could have fit in. And it's just R&D money probably spent somewhere that I just feel like a handheld would have more interest than VR, and it's just more accessible. And I don't think they're going to ship that many units. Like I just don't feel that vibes there this time for it.
What I wish to do is put the R&D cost of VR into cloud gaming. I'll go buy a Razer Edge, and then there you go. So then the Razer Edge becomes the Vita, but then I can also play Xbox on it. Eventually, hopefully, things like Amazon Luna, GeForce Now, which is a better investment than a Sony dedicated handheld. But they just need to get that VR. They just need to get their cloud gaming offering sorted. And yeah,
but we won't have to wait too long.
Like,
yeah, I'm very interested to see what. Like, I'm sure it'll come out to like rave reviews and everything as well about like, oh, it's the best, it's the best hand motion, it's the best eye tracking, like visually. Like Horizon is no doubt probably going to be a 10 out of 10 VR game, but is it going to get the market? Is the audience really there for it? And I just, as someone who's like that switched onto PlayStation, the whole games industry, I ain't buying into it. So why would your average Joe? As we joked earlier in the show about like who knows. Like the price of things, realistically, if you're a mum or dad and the kid goes, I'd like VR for Christmas, and you go, oh yeah, what's that, like 100, 200 quid? You go and it's higher than the console. You'd like, I think it's just going to switch a lot of people off. So
it feels like the 3D TV.
And then after 6 months, it's just collecting dust.
Yeah. I haven't touched mine in probably over a year now, my other one, so dun dun dun. Either way, rounding the show out with some other news, some little stories here, little cute ones. FIFA 23. It's been out for some months now, and people have started to notice little Easter eggs with Hollywood stars Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney. Rob Elhenney? How do we say it? I know it always is an ongoing joke. Is it Mackle?
Well, it's like the same way. Like I am stocks myself then, but it's the same type of like.
It's the same how it works.
Name convention for me.
So we all know Wrexham FC were in the game after their purchase, and we know they added Ted Lasso in from the Apple TV Plus series as well. People have noticed that if you play as the smaller clubs, you'll notice some trash talk actually comes over the commentary now, where they basically Ryan Reynolds shows up and like just puts a put down on Liverpool and some other teams and makes some like sly, typical Ryan Reynolds joke digs at them in the commentary. Which is just, quite funny. Although it does make me worry that FIFA might just start to turn into like this Fortnite TikTok thing where everything's about funny jokes and cosmetics, and it's like, which I guess it never will because it still has the main core game.
It's still about playing cards.
Yeah, but it is interesting.
Card game, FIFA.
And as someone who's now watched all of Welcome to Wrexham and all of Ted Lasso, I'm going to start a career mode on FIFA as Ted Lasso. Maybe with Wrexham as the manager, just for like that cross combination of TV production. And obviously, I've said
Wrexham, I think they're not in the league system in the rest of the world.
No, but I think you can change them out in career mode for like just basically ditch your team and swap them in. Yeah. But interesting all the same. Two TV shows definitely enjoyed. And you'll be glad to know, Rob, I'm now like up to season 6 of Always Sunny, so I'm steaming through it, and I'm starting to understand Rob's motives for buying the club with the amount he tries to get sport into the show, the Philadelphia Eagles and stuff, into their main TV show. But final story for the week, just to round things out, I want to talk a little bit about the Gran Turismo movie. We had a trailer drop. Did both of you check the trailer out? That was your homework before this week's show.
I did.
And I didn't.
Oh, Richie, you got to watch it now, God damn it. So I'll throw it over to you, Rob. Gran Turismo, of course, based on a true story. A kid who entered a Gran Turismo tournament, worked his way up and got a professional contract as a racing driver. This has Orlando Bloom and David Harbour in. What do you think of the trailer? Does it actually light some hope that this could be a decent movie?
I mean, if you told me they were making a Gran Turismo game, there's a Gran Turismo movie, there's no element of that where I'd be interested in, and because it's just not the franchise that suits a movie. But to the credit, they've done a half decent job of making a story out of it, I guess. And if they had to if there was any story to be had in it, I guess this is it. I'm not going to go see it. I don't have enough interest in it to watch it.
I'm kind of glad this isn't just PlayStation's version of Fast and Furious. Because that was my immediate assumption that this is what it was just going to be, and I have absolutely no interest. So I still don't really have much interest in this film, but I have slightly more than if it was just going to be a Fast and Furious clone.
Yeah, there's a part. So there's an element. I think we mentioned it a little bit. Richie playing Forza Horizon this past Thursday. Go check out the live stream if you want that. There's something about the trailer which I don't think it appeals to us as gamers, but I think if you're a motorsport fan, this probably looks really, really good. If you're in a Formula One or racing, I'll give it to them in the trailer. The cinematics and some of the clearly using kind of drone footage shots, which I don't think has probably been used that much in big screen cinema before. And again, Orlando Bloom and David Harbour are well-known actors as well, adding a bit of gravitas to it. And it's based on a true story, so it's kind of ticking a few more boxes than I initially anticipated. But the actual trailer and the way they're talking about the kind of sound and the way they're shooting it and the visceral nature of the footage that they're showing off in the trailer, I was I think it could be really good.
Yeah, if you're a motorsport fan, I think this is for you.
Yeah, again, I don't think it's for me, but I'm thinking my wife's dad's a massive Formula One nut, and I think if I showed him that trailer, he'd be like, "Oh, that looks good, that looks cool."
I think that's a good thing, because then if that is the case, then they know who they're pitching this to. They're not trying to make this mass appeal action film. They're going to go, no, who's this game for? Who are the people going to go watch a Gran Turismo film? It's people who like motorsport, people who play Gran Turismo. Let's make a film for them. Rather than let's just make it for everyone and try and get as many people in the cinema as possible. And I kind of like that approach. It probably won't do the same sort of numbers as if it was a Fast and Furious clone.
Yeah, it's a curious one.
From an artistic point of view, this is the better approach, in my opinion.
And again, I think motorsport has millions and millions of followers. If you get this promoted and advertised during the NASCAR season or the Formula One season or something, it could pick up a good bit of an audience where they wouldn't recognise it as a game. They just see it as the cool racing movie that just came out. And I think because they're not leaning into the Fast and the Furious or the Need for Speed movie with Aaron Paul, it's just kind of its own thing. And I'm curious how little CG is needed because it's actual just cars. So all they need is to rent the cars for a month, do all the footage, and tweak it up in post-production. But I can't imagine it's that expensive to shoot either.
It probably is.
Compared to a CGI, a superhero fest where everything's animated, this is a lot of just a camera follows a car around a track. Yeah. Top Gear, the Grand Tour shows get phenomenal production value, and they're just shooting on a track.
It'll be having one of the big costs will be having multiples of all the different cars and stuff, because if there's accidents and stuff, which there probably will be, I imagine, a lot in shooting, and then running it again and again and again and again to get the shot perfect, especially if they're using a lot of drone stuff. Then you got to control the drone. You can't just have it on a camera gimbal or something. The complexities of the shot is probably what would make it expensive.
Indeed.
But yeah, this could go the way where you get a lot of people who are motorsports fans, racing fans, go to the cinema to see this and go, "Oh, this is based on the game," then buy the game.
And then
that's probably the calculus.
Loads of them will go out and buy Grand Theft Auto as well because they'll see GT and GTA and think it's the same thing. That's how it's going to work.
This is nothing like this.
Yeah,
David
this is what I
never did
expected.
this.
Yeah. But there's plenty of stuff in the work from PlayStation Studios. We've got the Gran Turismo film. We've got a God of War TV series. We've got a Horizon TV series. We've got an Uncharted movie, second one, presumably coming up after that made a decent bit of profit with Tom Holland. We've got a Twisted Metal TV series, which I think is going to be like the worst of the lot, but either way. A Days Gone film, a Ghost of Tsushima film, a Jak and Daxter movie, and a Gravity Rush film, of all things, as well. Small little Vita title there, getting the the film treatment. And a Death Stranding movie as well. So much stuff in the work. But that brings us to an end of this week's episode. And a reminder that The Last of Us TV series starts on the 16th, 15th of January, respectively. And we'll be covering it right here on the channel with the ClickerCast, our brand new show, live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. We're going to get together and round up and break down everything there is to know about that show. But until then, you'll have to put up with this very show, Talking to PS, XPass, our weekly Xbox podcast, and CloudQuest, our weekly topical cloud gaming discussion, where we go off the beaten path into a little bit deeper of a topic. That's been it for this week's show. Thank you very much for watching and tuning in. My name's been Chris.
I've been Richie.
And I've been Rob.
And remember, folks, play whatever makes you the happiest. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.